Dr. Mark Changizi here with your Science Moment. Today I'm going to talk about the valuation of Twitter. How much is Twitter worth? And of course, I have no idea about the actual numbers of these things. I'm not an expert in that kind of thing. But people are talking about, look, oh my gosh, he paid too much for Twitter because it's not very good at this, or, the verification marks, or the misinformation things aren't working. There's all this kind of talk about why it should, not why he paid too much, or various sorts of angles in this regard. And I think they're completely missing the point for the value of Twitter for the owner. And the value is almost entirely because of what's baked in at this point after around, a dozen or so years of Twitter's existence. The reason that it's so valuable is that we're not really going to leave. It's very hard, unless we're banned or censored like I've been, and many of us have been. That's the only reason we're leaving. We want to be in Twitter. And the reason we want to be in Twitter is it's because we've developed suites of social relationships and social connections and followee connections that take years and years to bake in. Let me give you an example. Suppose we were told, there's this other country, it's United States Prime, like number 2, and we can just all move there. And why don't we just go there? Because everything is better there in some certain regards. Let's say everything is cheaper there, let's say. Now, but when you go there, you're going to lose all of the neighbors that you had, because you're going to end up in some completely different spot, because it's just the way the nature it's going to be. And so everything is going to get remixed and scrambled, and maybe you can go find Fred and Doug, who used to know, and like, hey, let's try to live near each other because we were friends and buddies, and we'd like to have all of the relationships we used to have and distribute them in that way and get that all back. But you're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to move the entire country over to another place and keep all of that structure. All of that structure is incredibly complex, incredibly hierarchical, and it takes years to bake in. And the way that it's baked in characterizes who you are and what your friend network is like, and your neighbor network is like, and your acquaintance network, and all of these things is determined by that. And so that's what we have at Twitter, because it was the first one of its kind. It's not, Facebook is not really a public square in that sense at all. It's really about your physical, neighbors and friends in real life. It's much more geographically a centered kind of app. It's not about social connections more generally. So what makes Twitter valuable is that it's all baked in. It takes many years to achieve that. None of us want to go and lose all of those connections, especially if you've got a lot of followers. But even when you don't have a lot of followers, you have all of these people that you're following, and they're hard to find. I mean, there's a few, like, yeah, I want to follow, this famous Joe Rogan. I want to follow. And Joe's always going to be easy to identify. But there's all these other people that you follow, because you might be following thousands of people, and you just don't remember them all. But you like that suite of people that you follow. And because you get a certain kind of stream of information that is relevant to you, and it's hard or almost impossible to get that back and have all of the trillions of connections occur. What makes Twitter so valuable to the owners of Twitter is that those connections have already been baked. And no one else can really bake that, because people don't want to leave where it's already now baked in. So once you have it, it's already baked. Right now, Elon is putting different kinds of icing. He's trying this icing, that icing to make it work better, getting rid of, hopefully, the misinformation censorship that they had, although he has not done a great job at that quite yet, but hopefully that will happen. But people are misunderstanding entirely what makes it a valuable company. It's all about the social connections. It's all about the trillions of social connections. That's what undergirds its ability to be a kind of public square, as we've talked about recently. It has a hierarchical nature that connects little clusters to bigger clusters and et cetera, that allows it to work in a very close manner, be more of a small world network, despite it having hundreds of millions of people in it. That doesn't happen fast. It doesn't happen quickly, and you can't just pay for that. It has to happen organically on its own through decentralized processes that no billionaire can force to happen. But now that he's got it, he's sitting on a public square of all these people that have their friends and neighbors and acquaintances in online space. and they're not willing to leave, and they'll stay. And they'll be patient for all of the different kind of icing that Elon tries, as long as he's committed to free expression. And that was your science moment. If you're interested in things like this, take a look at Dr. Tim Barber and my Free Expression Institute, devoted to the study of free expression and how freedom itself depends upon it. And take a look at our new book, which is a grand unifying theory about what emotional expressions are expressly human. That was your science moment.